Okay. What is your name?
Eneyda Brito Sierra,
Okay. When were you born?
February 26, 1973, making me 46 years old.
Ooh. Were you born in the United States?
I was born up north, Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Were your parents born here?
No, they're actually from Cuba. My mom is from Sagua La Grande, Cuba, and my father is from Placeta, Cuba, and they migrated over here right before the revolution started.
Very interesting. What language do you speak?
I can fluently read, write, and speak Spanish and English.
Wow. What language do you prefer to speak?
It's really odd. It depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to my parents, my brain automatically switches to Spanish. Or if I know a person speaks Spanish, it will just spew out Spanish. If I'm talking to someone that I know speaks English, then it just kind of goes to English. In the household, we predominantly speak English to the kids.
What's your religious beliefs?
Well, I was raised Catholic by my parents, but I was never a practicing Catholic. So a few years back, we joined Highland Park Church, and that's where we've been going for the past few years.
What's your family size?
My husband and I have 2 kids together, a boy and a girl. One's 19, one's 16, and we also have, he had 2 kids before that, so I have 2 stepkids, also a boy and a girl, in their late 20s.
Wow. How was your childhood growing up? How would you describe it?
Well, it was a little different, being that my parents were from Cuba. The culture was a little bit different. It was a good childhood. I had everything I needed, but there were some differences in the culture that in my parents' beliefs versus, my friends here in the United States. So we grew up predominantly surrounded by Spanish-speaking relatives and friends, is how we grew up, or how I grew up.
Did school come easy to you?
Yes and no. I learned concepts very quickly, so it was pretty easy for the things that I understood. But my first language was Spanish, so it was really rocky at the beginning, and I picked it up pretty quickly. But before then, it was a struggle. There are some things that the teacher would refer to as, American classics, childhood stories, I guess, that parents would read to them. Sometimes I couldn't relate to that, didn't know what they were talking about. So that came as a bit of a struggle. And also, my parents could never really help me in anything that I didn't understand, because they didn't know the language. They just put the expectation that I had to do well in school, and I had to figure out on my own whatever that meant to achieve that goal was to do well in school. So a lot of things I did have to teach myself, or had to find outside sources to accommodate that. So once I got it, I understood it, but some things weren't always that easy.
What about when you were in school making friends, or in your neighborhood making friends? Was that difficult?
Not at the beginning. It was, because there was a language barrier in my neighborhood, and so I only knew Spanish. They only know English. But with kids, you kind of figure it out. And I learned English pretty quickly. So it wasn't so much making friends, but when it came to cultural differences, that was a struggle. Like my parents, I guess one of the American traditions is that girls spend the night over each other's homes. I was invited all the time to, you know, oh, it's a slumber party, it's my birthday, you know, come spend the night, we're gonna watch movies or whatever. Doing nothing bad, but my parents never agreed to that, and it was really tough. Going to junior high dances, high school dances, my parents didn't believe in that. So that was something I was never able to participate. So it kind of drew a little bit of a barrier between, you know, the friends that I could make. So when we were together, we got along, but anything outside of school or, you know, in the neighborhood, anything outside of the norm, or what my mom considered the norm, was difficult.
Sounds difficult. What was the hardest thing to adjust to with United States culture for your family?
I think the differences in our beliefs, especially growing up, my parents didn't have English-speaking friends. The only people that came over to the house, the way I was raised, were other Spanish-speaking families, relatives. So they kind of had the same culture. So when I went outside of that, it was really hard. I felt like I wasn't understood by, you know, the kids at school. I feel like, oh, they don't know my situation. They don't understand that my parents won't allow that. It was quite an adjustment, and my teenage years were really rough, because that's when you kind of want your freedom. You want to go out there and have your freedom, and it just didn't happen for me. And it's funny because my brother, he's he's a little bit older than me, but he was allowed every freedom he wanted. But me being a girl, I was very sheltered, and, you know, I wasn't allowed to do much, and it was tough. It was hard. I didn't feel like I could integrate with the other kids.
Did you go to college? Did you graduate high school? Did you go to college? What's your highest level of education?
I did. That was always an expectation in the household. My parents have a strong belief that, you know, in this country, your education, and even in Cuba, education was really important. And in order to make anything of yourself and to be considered what they called successful, is because you were going to go to college. So that's the one thing that I knew from the very beginning that I was expected to do. And like I said, it didn't come very hard to me. It was pretty easy once I understood the concepts, and then I knew the resources to go to be successful. So I already had it in the back of my mind that I would, you know, attend college. They expected me to do it, and so I graduated from high school, and then I went on to do two years of community college, and then I graduated from University of South Florida with a business administration and a minor in management degree.
Okay. And what is your occupation now?
Well, even though I graduated with a business degree, I didn't get into it right away. I did some accounting for a little bit, but I had just gotten married, so I liked a flexible schedule, didn't have any kids at the time, so I wasn't really concerned. But then I went into teaching whenever I got pregnant with my first kid. And so had to go back and get some education courses, and I am now a teacher.
That's awesome. How long have you been a teacher?
This will be my 16th year going in.
Wow. Do you enjoy your job?
I do. I teach mathematics, and as you know, mathematics is one of the state standardized tests that the students take at the end of the year. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a high stress job trying to, you know, get them to learn, and all the different ways that they learn. But I do enjoy. It is stressful job though, very stressful. And as the years go by, it seems like it's getting even more stressful. Or maybe I'm just getting older.
So you had a business degree, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you transferred it into a education degree or a teaching degree.
Yes.
If you had your job of choice, what was your first job of choice? What did you want to be?
Well, my dad was a small business owner, so that's why I got the business degree. That's where I wanted to go. But I didn't do much with it other than just that accounting job that I had. And once I got into family life, I needed something more for my children. I wanted to know what the school system was like, and to be honest with you, I felt like once I got in there, I thought that would be that is my calling. And so I'm happy where I am now. I feel like that's where I'm supposed to be.
So you enjoy the students and...
I do enjoy the students. I enjoy
awesome.
teaching. Again, it's not always happy times, but overall, it's a good thing.
And not always happy times it's any job you're in, really. So.
Right. Every job has its two sides.
All right. That's it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for interviewing me.